Hello, in this video we're going to talk about the APDL export feature, which enables you to export your data from APDL to any logbook software that you choose. Of course, that includes Logbook Pro, but it can also be used for any other logbook software or even just a spreadsheet program if you choose to use that. So this video is going to be specifically targeted toward exporting APDL data into Logbook Pro. First thing you need to do is go to apdl.net and log in. I've already done that here. Then you want to go to the Export Data button on to the left. On this page, you'll see this top section here has some instructions for you to follow. I'm just going to walk you through that here quickly. First thing you probably want to do is click here to download an APDL template for importing into the Logbook Pro import wizard. That will speed up the process, and it's pre-configured for the data coming out of APDL to properly map it into Logbook Pro. You can modify that custom if you choose to, and we'll show that here shortly. Most important thing here to remember is, or take note of, you need to make sure that you tell Logbook Pro that your times are in minutes. It's also noted here. All right, so I'm going to save this file. Just going to put it on my desktop. You would want to put this in a convenient location for you to use it each time that you import into Logbook Pro, so perhaps in whatever folder you have Logbook Pro installed. All right, the next section here configures what data you're going to get from APDL, because you don't want to get all of it every single time. Because yes, this is used for Logbook Pro, it's also for any other software as well. So we have to tell APDL specifically which range of dates we want to import our flights from. And if you overlap those date ranges, then it will create duplicates in whatever software you're using, including Logbook Pro. So you need to be very deliberate about the beginning and ending dates that you use from one import to the next import. So you have several options here in this drop-down list. I'm just going to use last month to keep it simple. That's usually a good rule of thumb to go by. Just use one month at a time. The beginning and ending of that time frame is can be set according to your domicile time or UTC time. If you want to export by leg or by day, of course we always recommend by leg for Logbook Pro purposes, since that gives you more detail on your logbook. Do you want to include deadheads in this? Most likely you don't want to do that. That's why we have this defaulted off. And reason for that is that would put flights in your logbook that are not actual flight time for you for purposes of logging flight time, since a deadhead is not a flight you actually flew. So that would artificially inflate your flight time and make your total hours inaccurate. And then when you export the times, do you want those to go into Logbook Pro as domicile time or UTC time? And that's for your out, off, on, and end times. This next section here is a customer marks configuration. This only works if you have by leg export selected. And this is not a requirement, this is optional. And the reason you would want to use this is if perhaps if you wanted to export more information into Logbook Pro that APDL has that Logbook Pro typically does not, such as flight number, trip number, crew names, hotel, duty times, things like that. And here's the format that it would be displayed in. You can rearrange those in different order, or you can add or take away different fields, and those fields can be viewed here by clicking on this button to the right. If you don't want to do that, you can just use the notes column from APDL and import that directly to the remarks field in Logbook Pro without any customization needed. Once you've set up how you want the export to go, click this Get Flights button. APDL is going to retrieve all of your flights from the cloud that it has stored within that time range and display them to you here so you can review. Now there's quite a bit of information off to the right, and that's not necessary to review all of it. Purpose for this is mainly just to review what it's going to import for you, make sure it looks pretty close to what you intended for it to look like before you actually process the export itself. We have two options down here. You can use or download a comma separated values file, or CSV, or a tab delimited file. In the case of Logbook Pro, it does not matter. You can use either one. If you have a specific requirement for some other logbook software that you're using, then you can choose the one accordingly here. And then another option to download the APDL import template, which we've already done. I'm going to use CSV file here and save as. I'm going to put this on my desktop as well, but of course you could put it in a convenient location for you. So that's processed our export. Now we have that file on our desktop. Going over to Logbook Pro, and here I have a blank logbook file that I'll use for demonstration. Now I do want to point out I've already configured the options area for aircraft and a custom time field, which I'll show here shortly. You definitely want to configure your aircraft options as well as your aircraft autofill options prior to doing this, which if you're a Logbook Pro user already, then hopefully you've already done that. I want to go to the File menu here and click Import Wizard. And the first thing we have here is a browse option to find the file that we want to actually import. Here's my APDL export file that we saved on the desktop. Notice that Logbook Pro has detected it's a comma delimited file, CSV. If not, you could select this manually. Remember our note earlier that we want to select minutes as the format of our source flight times. I do want to execute autofill on each imported line. That way the duration of each flight gets properly filled into the pilot in command or the cross-country field or whatever. I have my autofill configured for those particular aircraft. As far as the overwrite mode, most likely you're going to append the imported data at the end of what your existing Logbook Pro data is, or add it not necessarily to the end if you're importing from a previous time frame and you have data already after that. But most likely you don't want to overwrite your existing data, which would be this option here. That should be a pretty rare case. And then the backup mode, of course you should probably do a backup prior to import, just in case you did select a date range accidentally that has some overlap, and then you would end up with duplicates. In our case, I don't have any data at all, so I'm going to choose not to back up. And this is just giving me a warning saying you probably should back up. So I'm going to click Next. Here's a preview of the data that Logbook Pro sees and the different fields that it has detected. We'll leave this check mark box checked to indicate that the top row does have some names. Hit Next here. Now this is where we select which field, which column here goes to which field in Logbook Pro, and you'll notice that they're all blank. Now what we have to do is tell it, for example here, this is remarks, and the duration, and the PSC column, and the instrument column, and all those things. Now this is where that APDL template comes in handy that we've prepared for you. So I'm going to click that and load the APDL import template. And now we'll go over and we'll see that some of the columns have already been checked for us. Now that's the default. That'll work great for you. Now if you want to use some extra ones, if you have some custom columns, for example, you can definitely configure those. And I created a custom column to import the captain's name. So I'm going to go in this captain column here and select my custom crew field, and it's automatically checked. And now that will put the captain's name in a custom text field that I've created just for the crew name, rather than having to use the custom remarks template that we talked about on the apdl.net page. Now I can save the template that I've just customized so that in the future I don't have to reselect this each time I do another import. All right, click import, and there it is, just that fast. All our data is imported into Logbook Pro. Take a look at the spreadsheet here. Now it is common that it will be scrolled down like this, so don't get concerned that it doesn't go all the way back to the beginning of the month here. Just scroll up and there's the rest of our data. We can scroll over and see the crew column, and there it is. It's imported my crew names there, the captain's names, just as I configured. And there you go. That's using APDL export with apdl.net and importing into Logbook Pro. Thanks for watching, and come back for the next video.